So we have finally made it to the end of 2018, and in today's video we have a lot to discuss. We have all this weekend's championship action to go over, and as well as that we also have my championship New Year's Day score predictions, which will be coming in the second half of the video. We had a lot of drama going on in the championship this weekend. We had quite a few teams at the top of the table dropping some points this weekend. We had some crazy games of football and a lot of talking points to go over. So as always, do let me know in the comments down below, what did you make of your team's performance this weekend? And as well as that, all the midweek fixtures for the New Year's Day games will be in the description down below for you guys to easily go ahead and make your score predictions. And as it is my final video of 2018, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to you guys for continuing to support the videos. I've really enjoyed doing YouTube this year, probably more so than any other year, so hopefully that continues into 2019, and yeah, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to you guys. And so before we do get into talking about any of the individual matches, I will include your guys' score predictions on screen now. So if any of you guys did get any of your score predictions correct, then I will include your comment on screen now. And fair play to everyone who did get one right. It was a pretty tricky one to get right this week, in my opinion. We had a few low scoring games and a couple of crazy games going on as well, so fair play to everyone who did get a score prediction correct. But apart from that, let's jump into talking about some of these games. So we'll start out with the game at St Andrews between Birmingham and Brentford. This one finishing as a goalless draw. Not the best game of football this weekend. There was only 3 shots on target in the entirety of this match. Neither side was getting into many goal scoring positions, and in the end the 0-0 probably was justified. The referee seemed to have lost control of this game fairly early on. I've heard quite a few complaints from both Birmingham and Brentford fans after this game, and probably the biggest talking point from this game was how frustrated the Birmingham fans were with Neil Maupay. Now Neil Maupay is, I mean, he's a ruthless striker in the championship. He scores goals, there's no doubt about that, but he can be an absolute nightmare to play against with some of his antics. I think it was probably best summed up in the second half when Brentford had a corner. Morrison went to push Neil Maupay off him, as you know most defenders do inside the box, and then Neil Maupay went down to the floor holding his face. It's a little bit embarrassing, but that's the sort of player that Neil Maupay is. He really does wind up the opposition. He's done it on quite a few numerous occasions so far this season, and what is most annoying about it is he's a very good player in the championship, but it's fair to say that he wound up quite a few Birmingham fans in this game here today, but in the end finishing as a goalless draw. A clean sheet for Brentford. They've been quite hard to come by for them so far this season. They made themselves quite compact for this game, and Birmingham just couldn't quite get anything going forward for them, really. And the next game between Bolton and Stoke City also finished as a goalless draw, and if anyone was going to go on to win this game, it was probably going to be the home side actually. Stoke for this one were looking really disorganised. Going forward, there seems to be no real flow to their play, and under Gary Rowett so far, they've not been the team who's convinced me. You know, considering some of the players they've got in that attacking third, they should be doing better. They should be scoring more goals than they really have done so far this season. You sort of know what you're going to get from a manager like Gary Rowett. He always does tend to be quite a cautious manager. If it wasn't for Jack Butland in this game, Bolton probably would have gone on to get all 3 points, really. They were pushing for that win in the second half, and Jack Butland was made to make some fine saves. Stoke had a couple of chances, and they had more of the ball as well, but even so, I thought they were looking very poor for this one. In terms of Bolton, it was a very structured performance from them. They had some good standout players for this one as well. Williams and Vela both looked like they had good games, and that result has lifted Bolton outside of the bottom 3. So going into 2019, Bolton won't be in the relegation zone. It's very tight down there at the moment though. And then we have Bristol City beating Rotherham United by 1-0. This result now sees Rotherham slipping into the relegation zone going into 2019. The 2 big talking points from this game were the 2 red cards for Rotherham United. They did finish this game with only 9 men. I'd be interested to get some Bristol City and Rotherham fans' perspectives in the comments down below as to what you made of the 2 red cards. Billy Jones was sent off after 64 minutes after a second yellow card. This one, Jeju had just got away from him down the right hand side. Billy Jones then runs into the back of Jeju. I thought it was quite clever play from him, really, and then obviously the referee pulls out the second yellow card there. Maybe a little bit debatable, that one. The second one, Richie Towell getting a straight red card, I thought maybe was a little bit more clear cut. It was quite a late challenge on Josh Brownhill, completely wiped his legs out and was nowhere near the ball. It was quite a late challenge, and so Rotherham then are left to play the last 20 minutes down to 9 men. At that point in the game, they don't really have any other option as to just sit back and hold out for a draw, but in the end, Adam Webster manages to pop up for Bristol City after 86 minutes to go ahead and give them all 3 points. It was quite a disappointing goal for Rotherham to concede. It was a header. Rodak did get a hand to it, but it just managed to squirm past him into the back of the net. And Rotherham lately, not on a brilliant run in the championship. They've lost their last 3 matches, and like I said, they have now slipped into the bottom 3. They definitely could do with a couple more players in January, in my opinion, but we'll wait to see if that's the case. Bristol City, on the other hand, been on a good unbeaten run lately. And then we saw Hull claim all 3 points at Ellen Road against Leeds United. What a result this was for Hull City, who are in a fantastic run of form at this point in time. It was Jared Bowen scoring both goals for the away side in this one. Leeds probably would have been quite disappointed with both goals, really. Not the typical goal that you associate with Jared Bowen scoring. You know, we're normally used to seeing him cutting inside on his left foot and bending it in from outside the box, but both these goals were sort of poachers' efforts. The first one coming from a Grosicki ball coming into the box. Leeds failed to deal with the ball coming in. Bailey Peacock-Farrell and his defence having a a bit of miscommunication between who's clearing it, and Jared Bowen's the man on the spot to give Hull the lead after 25 minutes. The same could be said for the second goal as well, a little bit of miscommunication, and Jared Bowen is the first to pounce on it, making it 2-0 to Hull City. I don't necessarily think that Leeds were awful in this game. They were still creating a lot of chances, still looking a threat going forward. It's just Hull were very compact defensively. After they did get that 2-goal lead, you could tell they were going to sit in after that. You know, they had a couple of goal line clearances. Marshall popped up with some massive saves as well, and they weren't letting Leeds get back into this game. It'll be interesting to see how Leeds do respond to this loss now on New Year's Day. They got a tricky away tie against Nottingham Forest on that one, so it'll be interesting to see how they do respond to this one. But what a fantastic 3 points this is for Hull City. And then we saw Middlesbrough beating Ipswich by 2-0. This result now sees Ipswich 7 points off safety, and they've got a huge game coming up on New Year's Day against Millwall, and they need to get something from that game. From this one, they did look like a little bit of a threat going forward. In fairness, Dan Randolph was forced into a couple of decent saves for Middlesbrough. He was looking back to his best in this game. One fine reflex save from a corner, and he had to save a 1-1 in the second half as well. But it was Jordan Hugill who gave Middlesbrough the lead after 37 minutes, converting from the penalty spot. It was a bit of a soft penalty, but it was needless to give away from Spence of Ipswich Town. Gave Hugill a little bit of a push in the back, and there was no reason to do it. And then with Hugill scoring it, that gives Middlesbrough more momentum going into the second half. The second goal that Middlesbrough scored as well was another very avoidable one from an Ipswich Town point of view. It was Tavernier cheekily screwing with the outside of his foot in at the near post past Dean Gherkin. Very savable, but at this point in time, no one in that Ipswich backline seems to be playing with much confidence. In the end, though, it was a good way for Middlesbrough to get back to winning ways after some less than convincing performances as of late. But in terms of Ipswich, they got some big games coming up now where they need to pick up something from them. And then we saw Millwall beating Nottingham Forest by 1-0. This could provide to be a massive result for the home side, who have now picked up back-to-back wins in the Championship to give them a bit of a buffer between themselves and the relegation zone. In this one, it was Ryan Tunnicliffe with the only goal of the game, a very acrobatical overhead kick coming from a corner to give Millwall the lead after just 9 minutes. And once again, another defeat for Nottingham Forest. Things have just been going downhill for Forest lately, and the manager Aitor Karanka has been coming under increasing pressure. I'd love to get some Forest fans' perspectives of what you make of the manager situation at your club at this point in time in the comments down below. Myself personally, I think Forest would be quite foolish to go ahead and part with Karanka at this point in time. They're not a million miles away from the playoffs. They have hit a rough patch in their season, there's no doubt about that. The way they're playing, it's not quite with the same intensity. They're not opening teams up like they were earlier on in the season. Joe Lolly was probably Forest's main attacking threat in this game. He forced a couple of decent saves from Jordan Archer, but apart from that, once again, it was quite slow and lethargic from this Forest side, who we came to expect, you know, quite fast, high-tempo football from earlier on this season. That's seeming to dissipate the longer this season has gone on for. I do think Forest will turn it around because they've got the squad in there to go ahead and do so, but they need to do that sooner rather than later. They got a big game coming up on New Year's Day, but a big 3 points for Millwall in this game. And then to one of the most ridiculous games of football we've seen so far this season in the Championship. We saw Derby beating Norwich by 4-3 in a ridiculous game of football that had absolutely everything. We've seen Norwich been involved in some pretty crazy games so far this season, but usually it's them who are the late scorers. But this time it was Derby who came up clutch with 2 late goals, and I was honestly speechless after this one. It was Norwich who started the brighter of the two sides with Ben Godfrey and Timu Pukki giving Norwich a 2-goal lead. That lead was wiped out by half-time though, with Tomori bringing it back to 2-1 with an effort just crashing in off the crossbar, and then Mason Mount making it 2-2 going into half-time. Both sides were having chances in this one, but it looked like Norwich were about to snatch all 3 points as Timu Pukki pops up with yet another goal in the 81st minute after some fantastic work from Onel Hernandez down the left-hand side. Straight after that though, a floodlight went out and the referee called the players off the pitch. I think there was about a 20-minute interval for them being off the pitch. In that time, Derby, you know, had to regroup in this one. It did sort of kill Norwich's momentum for the rest of the game, and Derby just threw absolutely everything at Norwich. They then made it 3-3 with a goal from Joseph Zoon. Quite a bit of sloppy defending from Norwich with them failing to clear their lines, and then it was Zimmerman who had an absolute nightmare. A long ball coming up from Scott Carlson. The ball took a bit of a dodgy bounce, but Jack Marriott managed to get the better of him and slot it in past Tim Krul to make it 4-3 to Derby County. What a way for Derby to bounce back in this one after a pretty shambolic display they had against Sheff Utd. Fantastic from Derby County taking all 3 points in this one. Norwich, it's a bit of an added bonus for them that Leeds and West Brom also dropped points this weekend. But something that does have to be said about Norwich is they are tending to concede quite a few goals at this point in time. You know, they conceded 4 goals against Derby, they conceded 3 against Nottingham Forest last week, they conceded 2 against Bristol City, 2 against Bolton not too long ago as well. So they are showing a few cracks in their defence at this point in time, but what a ridiculous game of football it was. And we saw Preston drawing 1-1 with Aston Villa. Quite an entertaining game this one actually. End-to-end, both sides having a lot of chances for this one. I thought that Preston probably started the game the better really. We hit the crossbar, Jordan Story having a good chance. Graham Burke was put through on goal by Daniel Johnson with the ball over the top, but Nyland produced an absolutely spectacular save to save it from Graham Burke, putting Preston 1-0 ahead. Tom Barcusen also had a couple of chances in that first half, but it was Aston Villa who did take the lead right on the stroke of half-time. Tammy Abraham with Aston Villa's first real chance of the game. A ball coming in from the corner. Preston, it was Paul Huntington who lost Tammy Abraham in the box, and he had a free header inside the 6-yard box to give Villa the lead going into half-time. Sort of took the wind out of our sails, really, because I thought that Preston probably did edge that first half, despite Villa having more of the ball. Going into the second half, though, Preston were continuing to surge forward. We were looking for that equaliser, and eventually it did come. It was Paul Gallagher and Daniel Johnson linking up well. DJ put the ball across the box, and El Mohammadi, in the end, put the ball into the back of his own net. After that point, both sides were having chances. Preston, for the next sort of 20 minutes, really did have the chance to go on and win the game. Tom Barcusen had a fantastic chance as he went around Nyland, but hit the post. Lucas Metcha also missed a couple of one-on-ones, but Aston Villa had a ridiculous chance to win it right at the end of the game. A ball put into the box, all the Preston defenders missed it. Bjarnason had a tap-in. He was about 3 yards out of the far post, but somehow managed to shank his effort over the crossbar, and it did finish as a 1-1 draw. In the end, I thought a draw was probably the fair result, and considering that Preston currently have 11 players out, 1 suspended and 10 players out injured, this was a fantastic performance from us. We put absolutely everything into this. Ryan Ledson was superb in midfield, the energy for us driving forward. Aston Villa, I think it was a bit of a tired performance from them. You could tell that they were missing someone like Jack Grealish, and defensively they were looking quite light for this one as well. So finishing as a 1-1, I thought it was a fair result. And then we saw QPR drawing 0-0 with Reading. QPR on a fantastic run in the Championship at this point in time, but Reading weren't looking too bad for this one actually. I thought it was a massive improvement from what we've seen of Reading lately in the Championship, and Jose Gomez's first point for Reading as their new manager. And this one, both sides had chances to win it. I'm quite surprised it ended as a 0-0 draw, to be honest, because both sides were creating some fantastic chances. Leitner for QPR hit the crossbar twice in this game, but he failed to break the deadlock. Ezzard and Freeman also had chances for the home side in this one. I thought that QPR probably were looking better in the second half. Reading probably edged the first half. They had a lot more of the ball and they were creating more of the chances then. There was a lot more purpose about Reading's play. It's just they are lacking that focal point at this point in time. I do feel as if they are in desperate need of a striker in the January transfer window. There was a lot more positivity about Reading in terms of this performance, but they're still going to need more to stay up this year in my opinion. And then we had Sheffield United beating Blackburn Rovers by 3-0, and with a lot of other sides at the top of the Championship dropping points this weekend, Sheffield United were able to make up a bit of ground on them, and they've been putting in some fantastic performances lately in the Championship. The last game they had against Derby County, and then now a 3-0 home victory against Blackburn Rovers. They've been looking good in recent weeks. The two big talking points from this game though were the 2 red cards. Sheffield United and Blackburn both finishing this game with 10 men. Chris Basham was the first player to be sent off for Sheffield United. I thought this one was a little bit harsh. You can't really tell by looking at the replay. He got sent off for a handball. He was in the wall for a Blackburn free kick. He did handball it, but whether it was deliberate or not, I'm not so sure. And then Richie Smallwood for Blackburn Rovers was sent off for a pretty bad challenge on Billy Sharp. That one, I don't think there's much debate in it really. That was a straight red card. Then for the last 20 minutes of this game, that was when Sheffield United really did start to take charge of this one, and they showed their ruthlessness to go ahead and bag 3 goals in this one. The Blackburn defending was really shoddy for this one. I've seen better defending in Sunday League. You know, Blackburn really were all over the place. We've seen a couple instances with Blackburn away from home so far this season where they've just capitulated, you know, defensively. We saw it against Bristol City, against Preston, and now against Sheffield United as well. It was Billy Sharp with 2 goals, and then David McGoldrick managed to wrap it up with the 3rd for the home side in this one. So Sheffield United going quite well in the Championship at this point in time. Blackburn, although, they've got areas to patch up. And then we saw Swansea drawing 2-2 with Wigan Athletic. The first off, Swansea were looking really out of shape for this one. I think that Graham Potter has since admitted that he got it wrong for the first half because Wigan really were in the ascendancy for this one. 2 goals from Joe Garner managed to give Wigan a 2-goal lead going into half time. So far this season, I don't think that Wigan have quite seen the best of Joe Garner, but 1 from the penalty spot and then 1 from a corner scoring with his head. That's where Joe Garner is at his best, and hopefully for Wigan and for Joe Garner, this is now a start of a bit of form for him. Swansea did make changes going into the second half though. That sort of changed the momentum. They made 2 substitutions and they started to get on the ascendancy themselves, looking a lot more like their usual selves. You know, in the first half from open play, they were creating very little. Defensively, they weren't looking very good either. But they did manage to turn it around. 2 goals coming from corner kicks, 1 coming from a Dan Burn on goal, and then Van der Horn scoring on the 81st minute to level things up for Swansea. Not the best we've seen of them so far this season, but bringing back from a 2-goal lead, Wigan will be disappointed, but a point on the road, not the worst result in the world. Then as our last game, we saw West Brom drawing 1-1 with Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday on a decent run lately in the Championship. And they got off to a good start in this one. New Hugh giving them the lead after just 5 minutes. Some really poor defending from West Brom after they failed to clear a corner. New Hugh having a tap in. And that has really been the only thing that's been holding West Brom back so far this season. Their slack defending at times is the only thing which is holding them back from a top 2 finish this season, in my opinion. But West Brom after that were looking better. They were looking to create more chances. And the biggest talking point from this game was the red card to Jay Rodriguez in the second half. Now, I'm not sure why he was given the red card, to be honest. I think the reason the referee did give it was because of a stamp. But when you actually look at it, there's very little in it. And I would be quite surprised if that doesn't get overturned, to be honest. I thought it was a really strange decision, actually, from the ref and linesman to give him a red card for that. But West Brom did manage to get back into it in their 95th minute. I think it might have gone down as an own goal in the end, but Chris Brunt was the last West Brom player to get a touch on it to go ahead and level things up. Sheffield Wednesday probably could have handled it better going into the final stages of this game with a 1-goal lead and having an extra player as well. They probably could have had a bit better game management about this game, but screwing the late goal, West Brom getting back into it, not a bad point, all things considered. But guys, there were all the games that did take place in the Championship this weekend. In terms of my results of the weekend, it's got to be either Hull City or Derby County. Myself, I'm just going to give it to Derby County just because of the drama in that game between themselves and Norwich City. My result of the weekend is going to go to Derby County. And then for my goal of the weekend, I'm going to give it to Ryan Tunnicliffe for his acrobatical goal against Nottingham Forest. And now we will move on into my New Year's Day score predictions. So all of the fixtures taking place on New Year's Day will be listed in the description down below, so you guys can easily go ahead and make your predictions. And then if you do successfully manage to get any of them correct, your comment will be included into the next video. So we'll just rattle through these. Aston Villa going up against QPR. Aston Villa still missing a couple of key players. For that one, I'm going to back it to finish as a 1-1 draw. Blackburn going up against West Brom. Blackburn haven't been looking too convincing defensively lately, so for that game, I'm going to say that West Brom will walk away with a 3-1 away victory. Brentford going up against Norwich. I see quite a few goals being scored in that game. I'm going to say that Norwich will win by 3-2, although Brentford haven't been looking as bad defensively lately. Derby going up against Middlesbrough. I'm going to fancy Derby for a 2-1 home victory. Derby looking fantastic in that game they had against Norwich. Hull going up against Bolton, a very interesting game. Bolton have been looking a lot more resolute defensively lately, although Hull have been on a fantastic run as of late. So for that one, I'm going to back Hull for a 2-1 home victory. Ipswich going up against Millwall. I'm going to say we'll end as a 1-1 draw. Ipswich, I thought, got maybe a little bit unlucky against Middlesbrough. They had chances going forward. They need to get something out of that game. I'll say 1-1. Forest going up against Leeds is a massive game for Aita Karanka. There needs to be a reaction from these Forest players sooner rather than later. I'm going to say that one will finish as a 1-1 draw. Massive game for Karanka's future. Reading going up against Swansea. I'll actually back Reading for a 1-0 home victory. I thought they were looking quite good against QPR. Rotherham going up against Preston. Neither side is at full strength, with Preston having an abundance of injuries and Rotherham having 2 players suspended going into this game. I'll say it'll finish as a 1-1 draw. Sheffield Wednesday going up against Birmingham. Birmingham not at their best as of late, and Sheffield Wednesday have been looking a lot better. I'll say that Sheffield Wednesday will win that one by 2-1. Stoke going up against Bristol City. Stoke not looking very convincing as of late, but Jack Butland has dug them out on quite a few occasions. Bristol City on a decent run of form at this point in time. I see that one finishing as a 1-1 draw. And then finally we got Wigan going up against Sheffield United. Wigan maybe got a little bit of their attacking edge back this weekend with 2 goals against Swansea, although Sheffield United have been playing very well lately indeed. 6 goals in their last 2 Championship matches. For that game, I'm going to back Sheffield United for a 3-2 away victory. But guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for this video. So thank you very much for watching. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do leave in the comments down below what are your New Year's Day score predictions and what did you make of your team's performance this weekend. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you guys for all the support you've shown on the videos for 2018, and hopefully 2019 is a good year. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.